It's here. We are redefining what it means to sit at the girls' table. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Girls Table, a podcast where women founders, creators, and investors share their stories. Today, I'm joined by Angelic Vendette, Global Head of Marketing for my favorite athleisure brand, Alo Yoga. Angelic was recently named CMO to watch by Business Insider and identified as Brand Innovators 40 Under 40. Angelic has been creating award-winning campaigns on the brand, retailer, and agency side for the past 15 years. Prior to joining Alo Yoga as chief marketer, Angelic has held marketing strategy and leadership at LVMH, Sephora, and fashion tech startup Stitch Fix. Angelic, thanks so much for coming on the Girls Table. I am so inspired by you and everything you are doing, and naturally, I had to go ahead and rep Alo Yoga so you could see my outfit today. How are you doing?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be joining you at the Girls Table today, and you look great. I love all
I
these.
even have the socks on. You can't see them, but they're there.
I have pants and socks on too.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed with the brand, and I'm so excited to dive in how you've been able to create Alo Yoga in such a household brand name. I'm also always repping Alo and their sweatshirts on every call, and the amount of people who have asked me, I'm probably one of your biggest marketers that you don't even know.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being our ambassador.
Of course. Well, what I've been doing lately is before we really get into kind of the open-ended questions, I'd love to start off with 10 questions, one-word answers, whatever first comes to mind. So, gonna start off. So, who is the biggest inspiration in your life?
The biggest inspiration in my life is, this is going to sound so corny, you guys. The biggest inspiration is my husband. We've been together for 10 years now, and just everything that he does, he leads with empathy, with passion, incredibly smart, just kind. So it's my husband.
I love that. I don't think it's cheesy. I think that's a great answer. If you had $500, would you put it into crypto or NFTs?
I think that I would put it into NFTs right now because the market is, down. And there's some really, really good NFTs that are at the lowest prices right now that are definitely under priced, and I would invest in NFTs. I have.
Ooh, we're gonna have to get some of that alpha that you're thinking about then. One adjective you would use to describe yourself.
Tenacious.
What is the most recent book you've read?
You know what? I read Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur just on the plane last night, and it was wonderful and soothing and just a beautiful read on the flight home.
Love it. Where do you want to go more than any other place in the world?
I want to go back home to Quebec City. I haven't been home for the holidays in 3 years, mostly due to the pandemic. I can't wait to spend the holidays with my brother and sister, so that's where I really want to go right now.
What is your go-to pastime?
I paint and I write poetry. So I do large scale paintings on the weekends, and we live close to the beach. And so I'll also go and write some lines of poetry instead of journaling. That's kind of my go-to.
Oh, that's amazing. I wish I was more autistic, but what is your hidden talent?
My hidden talent, I think that I have the capability of going, like being a sponge and going really deep on something. And I think that served me well.
That's an interesting one. I like that. What is one thing you do almost every day that's helped you be the best version of yourself?
Working out and meditating.
Coffee or tea?
Tea, herbal. I don't do caffeine.
Oh my God, you're talking to the biggest coffee addict. So, as a kid, what'd you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Wow. Awesome. Okay. So now I'm going to get into who you are, how you became to be the person that you are today. So before I do that, I just want to say, what is one moment that's been your proudest accomplishment?
I think there's been so many of them. I can say things like, being named CMO of the year by Forbes earlier this year, or I could say things like winning the Governor General Award in Canada or things like that. But to be honest with you, the thing I'm most proud of is my marriage and is being with my husband. choosing that life partner, I think, is one of the most important things that one can do.
That's crazy because really it's always been my goal to be Forbes 30 under 30. And then really yesterday I was like talking about this vision of how I see myself one day as Forbes 30 under 30 and all these like external accomplishments. So in reality, like when you really think about it and what you just said, like those are only just like awards. Like that's not what I would think would be my proudest accomplishment either. It's like goals in my life, but I love what you said because I think that's so true. And you mentioned that you wanted to be a veterinarian. So was there any moment growing up that you remember which impacted your trajectory as a young adult?
I do remember when I was 5 years old, well, obviously I was in kindergarten, as one does when they're five. I found a box of kittens. And, it was scary at the time because it was like, hey, what do you do with these? Do I have to go tell my parents? Do I bring my brother and sister in? Or do I, take care of them right away because it was starting to rain? And so I brought a box of kittens in my house and right away started kind of doing the things that, how does a 5-year-old even know how to start like washing them and wrapping them and then, heating up some milk. And I think, yes, I want to be a veterinarian, but why that's impacted my life is just, it's okay to start things and try things and follow your gut and follow your instinct. And that's one of my earliest memories. And although, of course, that's not impacted the decisions I've made till now, but it's something that I remember because it's been, self-starting, caring, and just following, your gut, like I said.
And then you obviously switched, and now you've been so much part of the fashion industry. So, what always drew you to that kind of as you started your career?
Yeah, I think fashion for me was a medium for self-expression. It was creativity. It was the arts. It was something so beautiful and intangible. At a young age, you can't access haute couture or things like that. And being able to see how art was conveyed, not only from a designer's perspective, but also how we could celebrate ourselves by showing who we are and our individuality. So it's always drawn me to this more creative aspect of who I am.
And then you started with Aloe, which I just love Aloe so much. So I am just so happy to have you on today. But how did you get involved with Alo Yoga and when did you first hear of them?
Yeah, I first heard of Alo Yoga maybe 4 years ago. Went to a yoga class in San Francisco. I used to live in the Bay Area. And my yoga instructor at the time, she was wearing Aloe. And girls and guys in the class were wearing Aloe. And I was like, wow, like I just love the look. I love the style. And as I started getting to know Aloe and understanding that it's so much more than just a yoga fashion brand. I started being a client, a very, very loyal customer myself, and eventually found my way into Aloe in a very special LA way where it's almost like I had put it out there. I had been recruited from a recruiter in the Bay Area who is recruiting me for a fashion tech role because I was at a fashion AI tech startup. And I had told her that I was not interested, that I actually, because the pandemic had just started, I wanted to stay in luxury. And the most luxurious thing to me was the health and wellness of my loved ones, of my family, of my colleagues, of, all of like my neighborhood. And she had asked, she was like, okay, well, what does that mean? Like, if that's luxury to you, what brand would you go at? And I literally told her, I looked down and I was like, I'm wearing Aloe right now. And for me to be able to have done breath work in between two calls as we're dealing with like all this unknown, this was like 2 months into the pandemic. So I told her, I was like, I consider Aloe to be at the pinnacle of that luxury. And 8 months later, she called me and she was like, hey, you did manifest this. I have the role of chief marketer and would you like to join us? So that's how it came to be.
Oh my God. And you even mentioned where it was 4 years ago where you heard about Aloe. And I must say, like, I just started hearing about Aloe a couple of years ago. I remember seeing it. I was living in Australia for a little bit and I was like, that brand seems cool. But now it's all I see. It's all I wear. And so how has Aloe grown to be such a well-known and top athleisure brand?
Yeah, well, thank you for that. For us, the pillars of what we do are all stemmed in community. So it's truly grown out of love. Similar to how I discovered Aloe by, one of my yoga teachers and my yoga studio and class that I used to go to. It's really grown out of kind of that sheer love and community. That once you join and once you're in, it's kind of like wearing a badge of like, hey, I take my wellness and my mental health seriously. It's kind of like if you know, you know, because we are still small, but to your point, it has grown not only in brand awareness but brand affinity because we've really prioritized staying true to who we are, leaning into bringing yoga to the world, bringing mindfulness and mental health to the world, and so yeah, it's just resonated with so many people, not only pre-pandemic but especially during the pandemic and post-pandemic. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and you mentioned Alo focuses more on that community side of things. So, what is Alo's main marketing strategy? And is there anything else that Alo really focuses on as I continue to acquire more customers?
yeah. I mean, we are digital first. So digital first and social first. And we now obviously have brick and mortar stores and retail locations, but at the core of it, we really are a digital first company. And so when you think of our marketing channels, it's everything digital, but then social. And social not only means social media, but social experiential and events and community building. So those are the main forms. And then after that, we have ambassadorships, right? Whether that be via yogi influencers, holistic wealth influencers, fashion influencers, beauty, you name it. And the majority of them are organic. They become ambassadors because they, again, love the brand and what they want to share with their community is kind of what they've experienced with Alo themselves.
Yeah, and I think we've seen Revolve, whether it's at Coachella or some of the other ones, they have these houses. And then I've also seen you guys pop up in LA where you have your Aloe house. And it's just so interesting because when I think about Aloe, I don't think about it as a Lululemon or just a brand. Like, I really see it as kind of all the people in between and the people who wear it. It's like, okay, you do like working out. You are part of this more community. So how do you see the future of Aloe?
Yeah, I think the future of Alo continues to be very experiential, both IRL and URL. And if you can live and breathe the brand, or if you can experience the brand and understand what it stands for, and you yourself, share some of those values, whether that be, you're doing yoga, or you might be coming to us just for Alo moves to do boxing or hit training, or you might be just coming to us for clean and green natural skincare or body care. Or you might just be coming to us because that's where your yoga studio is, but you might have never purchased. So no matter where you are on the customer life cycle with Alo, there is room for someone to be part of their wellness journey. And even after the beginning of it, or you've been doing it for years and years, that's kind of what has helped keep us, part of people's daily lives, because it is a holistic wellness brand, much more than just a legging or apparel brand at the end of the day.
Yeah, and how big is the team now over at Alo? Because I feel like it's huge. It's not just the team that you work with daily, but it's kind of everybody in between who talks about it, who markets it themselves. So just
Yeah.
curious how big you guys are.
I mean, there's so many different ways I can answer that in the sense of like our community is more than 4,000 people strong. But when you think of just my marketing team, we're 53 people strong. When you think of our head offices, we're about 350, just shy of it, people strong. So it really depends on how you slice and dice how big the Alo team is. But I would probably always reference it as our larger community of ambassadors and advocates and yogis and marketing and HQ. So probably upwards of that 4,000.
Awesome. And something you mentioned was how you feel like you manifested getting Alo by saying it months before, then 8 months later, you got the opportunity. I'm curious because I believe so much in manifestation. What is your kind of view of manifesting different things in life?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly believe in it. I don't know if that's like the word I would have used, A, because I'm not from LA. And now it's part of my vocabulary, but it used to not. But it used to be about like vision boarding and planning it out and having that positive sentiment that anything I set out to do, I can achieve, right? That tenaciousness that I spoke to earlier, it's like, hey, If you say no, I will surely find a way to get around it, or to get it done. And putting it out there, and I guess now that it's part of my vocabulary, manifesting it, and working towards it and wholeheartedly believing in it, is, yeah, I think part of my daily rituals. Like I end my day, I start my day with a workout, but I end my day with a meditation. And meditation probably slash manifestation, where it's meditating to kind of, calm my mind, get ready for the next day, but then also envision what it is that I want to achieve, whether it could be as granular as the next day or the next week or the next quarter or the next year. It doesn't matter what like that time frame, it differs from day to day.
Can I ask you what are any of your long-term manifestations that you have?
Yes, I mean, for me, it always starts with joy and happiness. And, like we were talking before, those external success factors, they're incredibly important to the day in, day out of what we do, but that's not the end all be all. So to live a healthy and abundant life, to live in wellness, to, accomplish some goals that I've always wanted to accomplish, whether that's working on a startup, whether that is accomplishing how I want to lead teams in my current role, whether that is, how I carry myself out in the world and how I lead with kindness. So without answering clearly, all
Yeah.
part of kind of the general ethos of what I do.
Yeah, I love that. I, a couple months ago, wrote down all of kind of my goals of the rest of the year and I put them on my fridge. I was like, I want to manifest it. Then,
Yeah.
as you kind of mentioned, I look back and I'm like, all of these are kind of external factors where it's like, is that enough? Like, will that make me happy? It's like at the end of the day, those are just small things where you really need to think about, okay, what are your long-term goals? Is it to be really happy, to be really healthy? Well, then what do I need to do each day to get there? And I don't think external factors of getting different accomplishments are really going to do that. It's kind of the small things and the small habits that you have in your
Yeah.
daily life to make you who you
So
are.
true. Yeah, so true. So well said. And it's hard. I mean, you and I are very similar in the sense that we're very driven. We like to be on top of like multiple things, running a mile a minute on many, many projects at once. And obviously that drives both of us, right?
Mhm.
So being able to focus and being able to say like, yes, I will continue to do all those things because they drive us, but also parsing time out for your personal and parsing time out to like float above all of that. To really focus on what kind of like matters to your soul is special.
And that's why I always ask in the beginning, like, what is your go-to pastime? Like, what do you love to do every day? Because it's not always about the career. It's what brings you, when can you sign offline and get that little bit of happiness? And I think that's kind of what Aloe, I think, puts in everybody, where it's like you go out, you work out, you have this healthy lifestyle. And that's why I'm always at, like, I love working out. I think I need to work out basically every day, or else I'm just not the best
Right.
version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everybody has whatever that might be. You mentioned that you went surfing and you're getting back to your routine, and everybody has something that brings them that little bit of joy outside of kind of the workforce and those external things as well that
Yeah,
you really can't control. So,
that's right. We were catching up right before the recording on the fact that I just flew back into LA from New York and went surfing this morning, and that it just those small things that reground you, make the rest of your day or your week sometimes feel so good.
are you somebody that's very routine focused? You need a routine every day. You kind of do the same things once you're in town and you're not traveling for work.
You know what? I am not type A. I'm very chaotic. And I do find that although it doesn't have to be at a set time or a set cadence, I do like that regularity of having and starting my day with a workout, starting my day right after that with walking my dog, things like that. So, yeah, I do enjoy pieces of my day that are routine, but it has to weave itself with the chaoticness that my professional life demands or my personal life demands. So I'm not rigid about it at all.
I love that. All right, now I want to get into you've been also a really big advocate for Web3 and bringing that into Aloe as well. So, how'd you first get involved in Web3?
Yeah, I got involved in Web3 via cryptocurrency. I've been interested in crypto for probably 3.5 years now. And so was introduced to crypto via Bitcoin. And I think, like many of us, just testing to try to understand the landscape, and got more interested, I guess, more seriously, just about a year and almost a half now, or no, a year and like 3 months now, where in the PFP space, in the NFT PFP space, female-led projects were starting to kind of blow up. So you think back of like June, July of 2021, when World of Women launched. That's when I started to invest and started to collect, because although I had been buying, crypto and kind of investing from that standpoint, I had not really dabbled my toes in NFT art quite yet. And it was with women-led projects that I truly started to collect and kind of dive deep heads first.
And how are you feeling in this market, given where we're at right now? There's a lot of people who are bearish on the market, think that was just kind of phase that we went through. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, like all markets, there are ups and downs. We're in a bear market right now, similar to how the stock market is doing. And so it's ebbs and flows. I do think that it is not only the right time to keep investing to build, but also the right time to help educate. Because it might not be the time where you're seeing, a heavy flow of transactions, not as much as we saw early, let's say this January or last December. So it's a good time to like educate, to truly kind of invest in the projects that you believe in, and to start kind of understanding the technology, because it's from a blockchain perspective. Yes, there's crypto. We just chatted about NFT, PFP projects. But there's so much more that the blockchain can help us with, from a business standpoint, and just, as a society overall. So educating and understanding and deep diving on that front is probably what I would recommend that all of us do during this time.
And are there any specific examples you have of the blockchain technology that you think will actually impact not only the fashion brand, but in general, our daily lives? And then obviously, I'd also love to dive in how you envision fashion brands utilizing that technology.
Yeah, for sure. For our daily lives, when you think of certificates of authenticity, certificates of identification, when you think of loyalty programs, when you think of ledgers and how things are recorded, so that data and information is not lost or not, stolen. So those are all pieces that are really interesting and exciting for us. And then specifically for the fashion industry, I mean, all of those things could apply, but when you think of the luxury fashion industry, having a digital certificate of authenticity that not only proves that you've purchased this designer piece, but when you think of the circular economy and, let's say resale, you won't buy a bootleg off the real. You'll know that it's authentic. And then similarly, traceability and like radical transparency in supply chains. That is really, really exciting for the fashion industry, and for many industries, right? CPG, travel, like whatever, you name it. But that radical transparency for sourcing, I think, is also important. And as consumers, like I'd want to know where, I don't know, my diamond is from and where it was sourced and how it got to be, and I think those are all special things that the blockchain is enabling for consumers, but then also for brands that stand behind kind of the art and the make and the craftsmanship of who they are. And there's no room for greenwashing or any of these kind of like marketing ploys that will tell you one thing, but then in fact is another.
Mm-hmm. And have you been able to implement any of the Web3 technology to Alo yet?
Yes. Yes. So there's quite a few things, right? If we back up and kind of look at my roadmap for this last year in 2022, we kicked off with a metaverse presence where now, we just saw earlier this week, about 55 million people have done yoga or meditation with us in the metaverse. And close to 60 million pieces of digital fashion are being worn on avatars that are Alo. So that was our first foray at the top of the year. As the year went on, we started accepting cryptocurrencies at checkout. So you can buy all the Aloe you're wearing now. I don't know if you bought any of it in crypto, but you can. And so that was an interesting point as well in time, just showing that we are, Very excited about Web3 and how, we want to continue to educate our clients and our community on it. And then later on, also allowed our employees to be paid in crypto. So for example, my paychecks are in crypto because I, choose to have them paid in crypto. You don't have to as an employee, but you can choose to have it paid in full or partially or whatever. And that's really exciting too, because it's about not only educating our community, but our employee force. And then just a few weeks ago at Fashion Week, we launched our first NFT. And back to kind of the technologies of blockchain and how they're moving the industry forward, we launched it as a digital certificate of authenticity. So that this was our first luxury collection. We had a presentation at Fashion Week. And if you buy this luxury collection, you get this digital certificate of authenticity, which not only, shows you the material makeup, but gives you that stamp that this is, in fact, a piece of the luxury collection that is limited edition. And it unlocks some really fun utility, like access to an Aloe house that you referred to earlier. Those are invite
I want to go to that so badly one day. I think I'm just going to follow you there one day.
Notoriously hard to get into. People are like, how do I get in? It's like the invitation only. You'll be invited. Access to our wellness clubs. Our wellness clubs are kind of our gyms that are also invitation only. We have one in Beverly Hills, one in Soho, New York. Private training, spa, facials, B12 shots, that kind of concept. So this NFT unlocks that utility, and it unlocks other things like access to a private client manager for personal shopping and things like that. So anywho, yes, the utility is fun, but at the core of it, it's a certificate of authenticity that showcases, where and how this was made, but ultimately also that this is a limited edition piece. And if you ever were to resell it, you would know that this was the authentic piece of that very first luxury collection that we showed on the runways.
And what is the price point for one of those NFTs?
Yeah, so it actually ranges incredibly from $55 for these really fun kind of earmuffs to $1,500 for a beautiful cashmere kind of ankle length duster. So there's incredible range. The $55 pieces are an entry point, of course, because we want to make this accessible to all, but truly because it is a luxury collection, it is on the higher end of things for the majority.
Yeah. And because you're at such the forefront of Web3, how has it been onboarding other team members to really get behind this? And did you have a lot of backlash when you first started and you were trying to tell people, okay, guys, we're actually going to go ahead and have a digital luxury brand, and like, who cares as much about physical? Like, digital is the future, and here's ways that we're going to implement. Like, I'm curious to know people who were so just focused on more the retail side and the physical side, how they reacted to this.
Yeah, I mean, it is the unknown. And I think as folks like you and I who are very, very passionate and ingrained in Web3 and at this point almost feel native, right? Although, who can ever say that they are? I think it's our responsibility to educate and to onboard folks. And so, yes, it's not like this was not scary or not the unknown for a majority of people, not only on my team, but on cross-functional teams, and being able to handhold and be patient and take the time and explain how this is a benefit and how this will help us in the long term and kind of share the long-term vision, I think is all crucial to things being successful, especially in this industry because it is new. What's exciting though is that there is a lot of trust based on, all sorts of other campaigns or projects or decisions that I've led for the business. And so there is incredible trust from the rest of the leadership team. And that goes such a long way because although they might not understand it, or we're chatting through it and kind of chatting through the benefits and discussing how I think this will move the needle on the business, there also is a lot of just kind of not just hope, but trust. And what I'm proposing will not only come to fruition, but be helpful. And so rely on that and rely on some of my past successes. And right now, like that Web3 roadmap, we did take it step by step. It was kind of a drip campaign into Web3. And so far, we've hit them out of the park every time. So it helps to not do all things at the same time, but one thing at a time, to bring in my internal community with me, but also my external community with me. Starting in the metaverse and kind of explaining what the metaverse was and having my community come along with me, and onboarding new members into our community with the, 55 million folks or so. That's just been so, so rewarding. And for a fact as a brand leader that, this might be their very first touch point with Web3, and that feels incredibly special too.
In your opinion, why do you think it is essential to onboard more women into Web3?
Yeah. Like I said earlier, it is not only our duty as Web3 kind of natives or connoisseurs like you and I to onboard and educate more women and more folks into the space in general, but also on brands and larger organizations to do the same, primarily so that women can also, build and secure a future for themselves. And it is because in some part, we were late to the game, not because we wanted to, but because projects of the sort were not as inclusive. Funding in the space was not as inclusive. When you think of how the community stemmed, it really was in these kind of VCs, but also chat groups and places where it was predominantly male driven, and kind of still is today in some regard. So being able to onboard, bring more women in along for the ride so that they too can build businesses, they too can invest, they too can buy, just allows them to, and us as a whole, as women, to secure our future and be educated to build for this next wave of web into Web 3.0.
Yeah, and I've always kind of fallen in those women-led projects. I used to work on BFF. I've been a part of it, and I'm excited to see what the women in the space are building and continue to reduce that gender gap that we see a lot in this space.
Agreed.
And I'm just curious, how has your journey been impacted by being a woman, specifically in a C-suite position at such a big and upcoming company?
Yeah. Throughout my career, I was definitely cognizant that I was a woman, whether I was at a management consulting firm. I started out in accounting. I was an auditor. And
wait, you were?
I was an auditor, Deloitte. Hi.
Oh, I was at Deloitte. I have my CPA, but I worked in consulting.
Oh my gosh, same. Okay.
I love that.
So yeah, starting out, I was very, very cognizant that I was a woman. And at certain points in time, you do have to work harder, especially when you're presenting your work. Sometimes the default will be like, oh, who's this tall blonde woman? Oh, I've heard comments, Alana, like, oh, that presentation was cute. And I'm like, excuse me? What do you mean it was cute? Yeah. This is like merger and acquisition, how we're going to be heading into the future for this company. Oh, cute. Well done. It's like, you would not say that to a man. Anywho, I've been cognizant about it throughout my entire career. And, the one piece that I've, always held is that that's not going to stop me. I think by seeking out female mentors and friends and leaders and supporting ourselves, right? And being able to network in the space, hence why the Girls Table is so important, and what you're doing is so amazing for the industry on the Web3 side. But being able to band together and break down those barriers and, if there is a glass ceiling, again, having those key folks that will help you surpass those, that's always just been important to not only participate, but also find allies. And at Alo, what's really exciting is that it truly is female led. Most of the executive team is led by really, really strong, ambitious and inspiring women, whether that be on the design front, the merch front, the creative direction front, sourcing, production, it's marketing, right? It's incredible to have female leaders in my circle and in my group, because that's truly how Alo is led. It's female led, and it's really, really inspiring.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I think I've been naive to being a woman who have really put my career at the top, and the small comments, like sometimes I think I would just ignore it. And then lately I see it in terms of like mansplaining, or in terms of small things. I'm like, hey, especially in Web3, like I live and breathe this space. It's all I do. I work in VC. I see companies. I'm at the forefront of it. It's like, I know what I'm talking about at this point in my career, specifically in Web3, but it's interesting that people still expect me not to know. And it's really pushing aside and being like, actually, I do know what I'm talking about, and I have spent the time to learn. And I don't think it's going to go away, but it's making it known that like women are here, and we're here to learn, and we're here to actually make an impact on the space, and we do know what we're doing.
Yeah, we do. And, it's unfortunate that we have to continuously prove that out and say that, some men don't ever have to like prove their accolades, and it's just like, okay, they must know the space. So hopefully we'll get to a place soon where we don't have to keep being like, actually, that's not true. But in the meantime, I think it's fine that we keep doing that, because breaking those myths, moving that glass door, breaking through it, I think it's important to show other women that, that visibility at the top, whether it's in Web3, the VC space like you, or whether it's at a brand like me, showing that you can be a strong female leader that still leads with kindness and empathy, but that has her shit together and knows what she's doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what is one final piece of advice you have for the people who are listening today?
Yeah. I mean, trust yourself. If you have a passion point, and you are interested in learning something or in doing something, trust yourself. Follow your gut, follow your instinct. Of course, educate yourself. Work as hard as you can, but trust that, you have the skill set to do and make things happen for the way that you want them to be.
I love that. Angelic, thank you so much for coming on the Girls Table today. If you would like to connect with Angelic, for any of the listeners, her Twitter account is at Angelic Vendette. Is there anywhere else you want the people following you and your journey?
You can also find me on LinkedIn. Again, it's just Angelic Vendette. And really excited to keep listening to the guests that you bring on the Girls Table, and happy to connect with anyone that's interesting in this space.
Thanks so much, Angelique. I appreciate you sharing your story, and I think you're going to continue to be such an influencer in this space, and to the people who listen and get to hear you on the Girls Table today. So thanks so much for coming.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Bye.